Welcome, everyone, to God's Favorite Creative Podcast. This is the only platform that brings you weekly interviews with the media industry's biggest game changers. They are breaking down the journey on how to become the next media mogul. I'm your host, Meah Denee, and today I have a special guest with me, Randy C. Barnes. He is a wellness advocate and the founder of he's the founder of RC Bonds PR, which is a dynamic public relations firm committed to amplifying diverse voices, building impactful brands, and crafting memorable experiences. Some of his clientele includes world-renowned dancer Ashley Everett, actor Malik Yoba, actress Crystal Hazlett, and so many more. And you've probably seen some of his work in magazines like Forbes, Essence, Ebony, BET, Allure. The list is endless. But I'm really excited to talk to him today. Welcome, Randy.
Thank you so much for having me, and I love that introduction. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So you're super special to me because, we met online. I was looking for people to help me do more interviews for my Black Entertainment News site. And you were I think you were the only person that reached out and was like, yeah, let's do it. I have people that need interviews. What's up?
Yeah, it was during the pandemic, and I was looking for more outlets to get my clients featured in because everybody was doing interviews from home and virtually. Mm-hmm. So it allowed us to really, for the first time, really seek out people that was with outside of the range of our normal go-tos, And for me, my line from the start of my career has been exposing the underexposed. And that doesn't just apply to the clients that I represent, but also the places that I'm having them represented in. I want to make sure that they're featured in places that everybody's not thinking of, because a lot of times you'll find those bigger outlets it's cool to have that stamp of approval on you, right? But everybody wants that. So when you're in those outlets, sometimes, it's a smaller feature, it's a smaller mention. You're luckily just be included. That's not where a lot of times the meat of your story is. And so a lot of times you have to do what Issa Rae said and network across and find people that's more in alignment on your level, or that isn't so far ahead to where it's like you're not an asset to them. The outlets that still see you as valuable and being able to add to their audience or feed their audience in a way, and impact their audience in a way, those are the places that really believe that you can use your achievements for impact. And they position you to do so, So I've always been one to make sure that I looked out for who others would consider the underdogs, because I realized that we all start somewhere. And if we wait for people to arrive, then the connection won't be genuine. But if you allow yourself to grow with them and to give them grace as they grow, then you will be able to really enjoy the ride a little bit more. And then it's a little more genuine when you come when they've made it, because they're like, oh, well, you were here from the start, so I know you're not just here because I made it now. So it was important for me to make sure that I respected all of the voices that were trying to contribute to telling the stories of the people I represented. I don't like to be exclusive, and say, well, only these top tier outlets, because that same person who's at a top tier outlet today started off somewhere else before. And if we can give them a chance again from the start, it empowers them. It allows them to grow further. It allows them to be a part of your journey, because then they can remember, you were part of helping me, so I got you too. And it's a win-win.
No, it's also important. And I appreciate that you look at it that way, because that, you opening up that door led to me getting put on other media lists and other junkets, and allowing me to interview people like Loretta Devine and The Mans and so many other bigger opportunities that really help solidify my brand a little bit more. Yeah. So I'm always appreciative to you for that, for sure.
For sure. Again, that's my goal. You said it in my intro. I love to amplify diverse voices, and build brands. And so any way I can do that, whether it's my brand or just a brand of somebody else dope I believe in, I'm like Issa Rae. Again, I'm going for everybody Black, but I always like to add a little bit more too and say Black excellence, and I feel like you were that. And I saw what you were bringing to the outlets that you were working at, like Allure and Glamour and stuff like that. But then I also understood your passion for the voices that you wanted to help amplify, who may not be fitting for those outlets, not because of their talent, but for other reasons that we don't even need to get into, you know? And so for you to have a place where it's like, you know what, I'll include them here, I'll look out for them here, it helped me too. You know, as much as you're giving me my flowers, you also were somebody who was instrumental in making sure that my clients had a home to rest in, you know, when it came to having their stories, have a safe place to be told, where they knew that they could respect the integrity of the journalist being yourself, where they knew that their stories wouldn't be, you know, corrupted or, you know, altered for clickbait or anything like that. And that means a lot because, like, you know, for us as journalists, I mean, as publicists, you don't always know who you're doing business with on the other side of the screen or the call, you know? So it's ultimately like you're setting up a play date for your client and you're allowing that client and that journalist to go and have a conversation that you may or may not be a part of. And you're hoping that the end result is something that's going to help further them in all the best ways and not something that's going to bite them in the you know what later, you know? And you're someone who I've always felt safe enough with to know that, oh, like my clients are safe in her arms. And we've hung out in person in real life because, again, I know my clients and the people within my network are safe, you know, within your reach. So, yeah, super grateful for your integrity and the work you've done to set yourself up for your platform as well.
Thank you. All right,
Of
so
course.
let's go back a little bit. I normally start off my interviews asking the question of how long has it taken you to get to where you are? Like, how long has the journey been for you to get in this place?
So almost 20 years, 15 to be exact when it comes to publicity, 18 when it comes to entertainment as a whole, I believe. Wait, no, maybe 19. No, wow. 19 now. It's been 19 because next year, 2025, will be 20 years. I'm getting up there. I'm
Time
old.
flies by.
Older. So actually, let's say almost 20 years, almost 2 decades, which sounds so crazy to say out loud, but I feel blessed. You know, what I would say is what started off as a simple, vain desire to go work because I was a college student. I mean, I was a high school student who was getting ready to go to college. I needed money. And so I started to work at this after school program. And I want to say it was my junior year. And so I went to go do it thinking like, wow, I get to get paid to interview celebrities. Great. Sign me up. Easy. Never imagining that all these years later, nearly again 20 years later, the very first celebrity I interviewed was Maestro Harrell, who played Randy on The Wire.
Wow.
And in just a couple of weeks, I'm about to go be on his podcast.
Oh,
He
that's
was
awesome.
literally my very first celebrity interview, and I still see him to this day, 20 years later. So I had no clue that something that started in my childhood is something I did just for fun or a way to set myself up for college would lead to a whole career path that I didn't know was possible, that I didn't even realize I would be interested in, that I didn't even know I'd be called for. I'm a small town boy from Chicago, the west side of Chicago. The closest thing I had come to entertainment was seeing them film Save the Last Dance on my block as a kid. That's the closest I had come to entertainment. Never again imagining that somehow 20 years later, I have a whole career in it. I'd be living in LA, away from my family. You know, I'd be surrounded by all these people who I grew up looking up to on TV. And now those have become like, you know, the people I do life with on the regular and see the most.
For you, how did that transition happen from you doing interviews to like actually wanting to do publicity? Because I know it's aligned, but the work can be definitely different.
For sure. So actually, I did my first cover story on Columbus Short, who was my favorite actor at the time. He was did Stump the Yard and what was the one, Cadillac Records. So he won an NAACP Image Award for that one. And I was blown away by one. Stump the Yard probably was meant to be like a teen, you know, flick or something like that. But if you watched it and you saw, it was for me him crying. I was just like, wow, like he's not just being like a hot boy, you know, like for the scene, like. He's committed to this. Like he understands the character. He's really telling a story. And to see that on, again, a movie that also brought so much awareness to the Greek life and to, you know, HBCUs and stuff like that. I was in high school getting ready to go into college. So it was such a big, memorable. I remember going to the movies to see that film. So when he did Cadillac Records and with Beyonce, I was just like, wow, again, like you only going up from here, you know, to go from Stump the Yard to Cadillac Records with this all-star cast and you win an NAACP Image Award for that. You know, I was blown away. So I did a cover story on him. And long story short, after the story came out, I got a call from him. I was at church. I'll never forget. I got a call from him asking how to basically make his name a household name. And because of the fact that I was in college too, my friends were in college. I'm like, okay, well, you're known as DJ from Stump the Yard. This is homecoming season. Let me hit up my different friends at different schools and have them reach out to their student activities departments. And let's see if we can get you incorporated in like the celebrity step shows, the celebrity basketball games, whatever we can do at the different colleges, just to get you integrated into their programming for homecoming. And it worked. And so that was the start of my career. And from there, I was just always one who tried to find a way to connect the dots. So there was a show coming to town. They were doing the first official revival of Dreamgirls for the first time in like over 20 years. And I knew some of the cast members. And so just when their teams were in town, I was trying to set up some other stuff for them. I didn't work there. I'm just a journalist in college. But the publicist happened to be based in Chicago, which I would have never known. And so because of that, they were just like, hey, would you be interested in interning for us? And I got an internship that led to me starting a whole career in PR. And I'll never forget, they were about to hire me and something took place at the job that led to that company being shut down. Wow. And so I had just interviewed Ashley Everett at the time. And I just remember I remember the first time I saw her on TV. I want to say it was the Today Show. She was performing Beautiful Law with Beyonce. And I'm like, who's this girl looking like Alicia Keys? And lo and behold, get connected to her, found out her mom was from where I lived in Oak Park, Illinois. And it was just all these connections. So interviewed her, was fascinated that she turned down Juilliard for Beyonce. Again, I grew up on the block that film Save the Last Dance. So I know what Juilliard means to dancers. I'm just like, you are an African-American woman who turned down Juilliard. You are one of 12 girls to get accepted that year. And you turned down Juilliard for 2007 Beyonce. Like, that's a bold... Yeah, because this is 2007 when Beyonce still hadn't crossed over to where she is now. Yeah, but that said a lot because there's like her options were I can continue getting paid to dance, or I can pay to go to school to continue to learn how to dance. Mm-hmm. That was so fascinating to me because it's like at a time coming up, very church, very conservative in a sense, like. We push school, we push religion, we push all these things. And to hear somebody like who is successful have to choose between education and a career and be successful at it was so inspiring to me. I'm like, more people need to hear this story. And I'll never forget when I started, my boss at the time told me, he's like, don't waste your time. No one's going to care. She's just a dancer. And I'll never forget the first place I got a placement in was Sister to Sister magazine, which was huge back then. Mm-hmm. And they did a full page on my client. And I was just like, wow, like here's my first placement that I could say is a publicist. It's mine. And I followed my own heart. I didn't listen to what my boss told me. And my boss may have meant well, but people throughout my entire career have said that, like, they're just a dancer, who would care? But later, fast forward to, I want to say 2015 or something like that, I was sitting down with the editor-in-chief at Essence at the time, and she said, we now know about a Misty Copeland because you gave dance a face by introducing us to Ashley Everett. And it was just like, wow, who would have known? And that wasn't what I was trying to do. For me, I was just trying to help expose the underexposed. I felt like, yeah, we know Beyonce, but what about all those beautiful faces next to Beyonce and the people that are working behind her, supporting vocalists as musicians who also have spent their life training and working on something. And so now they're not necessarily a background character. They are co-stars with her. They are her co-stars. I want to highlight and amplify them too. And doing that has been a challenge, but it's been so fulfilling to see people who were, again, once considered just people in the background or add-ons or plus ones and ancillary characters, to see them be now like people whose names you recognize and know because of their name and their talent, not just their association.
Yeah. Do you ever look at yourself as like a visionary or like someone that's really like changing the culture when it comes to like seeing Black talent in publications? Do you see yourself as that now?
100%. I have a jacket behind me right now because I just went to an event last week at Facebook and Meta, literally a week ago today. And they had 7 different options. It was just like pioneer, visionary, creator, all these things. And visionary is the one I went with because I'm like, beyond anything, I think that's one of the main things I am. And for so long, I didn't see it as that. To be honest, I felt like a leech. I felt like I was, because people make you, when you're the help and you're a team member, when you're like, someone on someone's team, The way the view is a lot of times is you're a liability. You're eating up some of my money. You're taking 10 to 20% of my money. And so we're looked at almost like this liability, this inconvenience, opposed to being seen as the asset that we are. And
Mm.
so rather than somebody see it as, oh no, I'm making 90% of a check that I wouldn't have made without my team member, they see it as, darn, it's costing me 10%. I'm losing 10% of my money that I earned on my own without any help. For me, I had to get to a place where I realized that I no longer wanted to be the help because I used to say, I just want to be Robin to Batman. I don't have to be
Mm.
Batman. It don't have to be about me because church taught me to be humble and taught me that the last should be first and all these things. And so, it don't have to be me. Don't put my name on a billboard. Don't give me the credit. But then, PR is such a thankless job because why? Our talking points, our ideas, like the research we do, all of that is voiced through who? The client. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying the client is a puppet, but the client is the face that
Mm.
has the voice, who is the one you see. So it's just like we're the ghostwriter from behind the scenes,
Yeah.
hoping that you get the talking points right, hoping that you come off genuine, hoping that you come off authentic, and
Mm.
all those things. And two things can be true. I can excel from the background, but I don't have to dim my light to do it. And that's where Be Greater Than came from. Me starting Be Greater Than was like, as a person who's in the background, all I know how to do is to blend in the shadows to make sure I'm not in your way, to make
Mm.
sure the spotlight's not on me in any way. So you often learn to falsify your humility to appear to be invisible. And
Mm.
I had to learn that that wasn't the way for me. I had to learn that I can be myself and empower others by shining my light rather than dimming my light and making them feel more empowered because now they have less light to compete with. If
Yeah.
you're only shining because I've dimmed my light, then you're not shining to your max capacity. But
Mm.
if I shine at my max capacity and you can confidently shine at yours, we can both win. And I don't have to lose for you to win.
Yes. Randy, I feel like every time I talk to you, you be speaking to my spirit. I'm like, ooh.
I love it. Honestly, I'm grateful because for so long, my voice was the biggest thing under attack. For so long, people
Mm.
told me things like, nobody want to hear your life stories and you talk too much. And so it made me feel like, you know what, my story wasn't valid. My story wasn't the one that people wanted to hear. They just wanted to hear my clients. So I hid behind my clients. And I'll never forget, I want to say 2019, you know how they do the fave 9 at the end of the year, like your favorite 9 posts, your top
Mm.
9 posts. I wasn't in any of them. It was all my client stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, I've become so good at being a ghost. I start to tell people that the Randy C. Bonds, the C stands for Casper, because I'm a ghost. I'll go ghost in a hot second, intentionally or unintentionally. And for me, I got tired of being a ghost because
Mm.
when you're a ghost, you have to go out your way to be seen. And it's just like before I describe or subscribe to being a ghost, I was very visible. Stevie Wonder could see me, but I didn't believe it. I was just like, nah, your vision ain't working. You don't, this greatness you think you see, or no, whatever. You're just talking. You're making it up. Even my mom and I, we have a laugh at it now. But like my mom has always thought the world of me. But in my mom, like, well, you're my mom, of course. You're biased. That don't mean anything. I need the other people to see that. And
Yeah.
so for so long, I ignored her affirmations and her confirmations, seeking that from the world. And the world don't want you to know because it's going to cost them more. So they want to keep you humble. And
Yeah.
so I had to learn for myself when I experienced, I started to experience, and this is called God's Favorite People podcast, or favorite creators. But excuse my language. But one of the things I had to learn this past year was that nice people shit too. And
Mm.
when I understood that nice people shit too, I stopped taking it personal because I realized that animal in the wild isn't eating the other animal because it's aggressive or vicious. It's eating it for survival. That's
Mm-hmm.
part of the circle of life, unfortunately. And who's responsible for that? Everybody has a different opinion on it. But understanding that I don't have time to now figure out the why as to why I'm a target. Why there's a target on my back. I just have to survive. And so if that means me staying 2 steps ahead, if that means me coming in early, if that means detaching from people, places, and things that no longer serve me, if that means being more confident in my gifts because I can rely on the support of others, whatever it is my responsibility to make sure I'm good, nobody else's. So I've had to learn to show up for myself. I've had to learn that I'm not the plug, that to call me the plug is a disservice to me because I'm actually a generator that the plug plugs into to have
Ooh.
power. And now understanding that I walk in the room with a different, like with my head up differently. Because I used to come in thinking I was just the help, that I was just the plug. So I'm happy to serve you and give you your water and hold your bag and watch your dog and babysit and go pick up the dry cleaners, whatever needs to be done. Because I was a publicist, assistant, manager, all purpose, all things. I'm like, I was only that because I wasn't minding my own business. I had so much time on my hand because I wasn't minding my business and drinking my water. When I started drinking my water and minding my business, I didn't have the time to be everything to everyone anymore. I only had the time to be to others what they were being unto me. I only had the time to connect with people who were reciprocate.
Oh, I love all of that. Sorry, I had a moment. I thought I wasn't recording. I was like, no.
Oh, no. You
But
go.
we are.
Yeah.
So you said so much in that. And like, for me, like knowing you as a friend and seeing like a few things, I feel like you started having like all of these transitions that you're talking about. Maybe like, I don't know, it was like 4 to 5 years ago, or like, tell me like, I want to know a little bit more about like that transition and how you were able to like embrace the transitions and like embrace like the new norms that were presenting themselves to you.
You know, growing up church, I'll say green. And so because of that, I hadn't lived enough of my green roots to turn brown like the tree trunks we know, right? They start off as these green vines and then they eventually life hardens them. And so what starts off with this tiny thin root becomes this big old trunk at some point that is then nestled and set in place. And I feel like I became that. I became nestled and set in stone about who I was and what I brought to the table. I want to shout out Crystal Hazlett from Sisters. She's one of the clients I feel like you featured for me in the past. And it was her who really, there's a picture she took of me and I'll send it to you. There's a picture she took of me BT weekend during the pandemic when we first met. I want to say 2021. And I'll never forget that day because like we had already connected and clicked on the phone. So it was so exciting to meet in person. And she captured a picture of me and everybody can see the difference in my life. And it was shortly after a friend had basically got me together about embracing me. He's just like, are you giving out what you want to get in? Do you look like what you would want to date? Like, are you putting that work that you would expect your partner to put in to looking like this and showing up like that into yourself? Would you date you? And all these things. I was just like, darn. Because for so long, I was trying to not be considered, too much as I had been told, or I didn't want to come off as cocky or arrogant, that things like my haircut wasn't a priority. Things like my wardrobe wasn't a priority because it wasn't about how I looked. I didn't want to have anything on the outside that would make you, lust after me, as we're taught in the church. I didn't want to give you any surface level reasons to pay attention to me because I don't want the spotlight on me. But then I felt so unseen and I felt so silenced. I'm like, but you're doing this to yourself. You're the one who's just like, oh, it's not about me. It's about Jesus. Don't look at me. And then you're like surprised that they walk past you, So I had to be honest with myself and say, well, hey, no, I don't want to be under the spotlight, but I do want to be recognized and seen and credited for my work. Like sometimes it's not about us, it's about Jesus. Like sometimes it is about me and my feelings and my contribution and my work and, and my credit. Like it is about those things and it's okay. And it doesn't make me selfish to do those things. And if it does, I'm okay with that now because now I don't even look at selfish as this bad thing. I think we have been taught and praised for being selfless, right? So everybody wants to be selfless so they can look like a good martyr, but they're really not. They're like, look at what I did. Look at how good I am, opposed to just really being able to be honest and saying like, no, that doesn't align with me and I don't want to do that. And somebody can respect that and receive that a lot more because then they can take the time to go find who wills align for them, opposed to you filling a square hole with a circle peg and trying to figure out like, okay, why it's not fitting snugly. the shape doesn't match and doesn't align. So it's not meant
Mm.
to. So yeah, you can do it. I can be the babysitter and a dog sitter and the house sitter and all those things, but am I equipped to? Do I have the time and capacity? Is it what I'm meant to do? Or is there somebody who's gifted in that, who's meant to do that while I focus
Mhm.
on what I'm meant to do, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't in your alignment. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I've also dealt with that where I struggle with like wanting to be out in the front, but not too much. Like I don't want to be cocky. I don't because I think
Mm-hmm.
it's like gonna push people away or people aren't gonna want to like work with me and things like that. And it's like all of these internal thoughts that really have no merit or like there's no truth to any of that. It's just like my
Mm-hmm.
own insecurities. And so I totally understand what you're saying about like basically putting yourself in that box and trying to fit into something that you're not destined to be. So I'm glad you're in a different place. And
Yeah.
I feel like, since you've gotten into that place, you started your new company, Be Greater Than. I would love to
Mm-hmm.
hear more about how that came to be and what the mission is for you guys.
So Jasmine Harper, who a lot of people will know from Say You Think You Could Dance and Say You Think You Could Dance All Star. She also was in
Mhm.
Beyonce's dance ensemble for years. She had the solo at Homecoming at Coachella. She was the cover of Beyonce and Jay-Z's joint album, The Carters, Everything Is Love. And so
Mhm.
she basically came with the idea to do something that she could own, in a sense. She became a mom during the pandemic. And so being a little more distant from dance than she was used to, she's just like, I need something that allows me to, do something for me, something, a legacy leave for my child, like a way that allows me to be successful without just waiting on or depending on someone else to pick up the phone and call me. And
Mhm.
so it started off as the idea to do a dance convention. But when we got to really talking about what the real needs were for people in general, not just dancers, we realized that Be Greater Than a wellness brand committed to amplifying wellness community and basically being able to be a space that creates access and accessibility and accountability for those who desire to experience wellness, and then being a bridge between those who desire to experience wellness and the platform providing wellness. So whether that's Walk Good LA, who does yoga regularly, or the Footy Love Foundation, who teaches tennis, or partnering with Wastework, who uses hula hooping as a way to promote wellness. It's
Mhm.
being that bridge to say, hey, you're looking for something. This is what you love. Great. Here's somebody who does that. Because wellness also looks different for everybody. I think we've taken wellness and we've commercialized it and made it, hot yoga and hot spin and, going to the spa.
Yeah.
When if you look the definition of wellness up, it simply means to thrive instead of survive. So that could just be a community game night. That could be a community book club. That could be a small group that has conversations about mental health. A support group, a accountability group, etc. And so, for us, creating Be Greater Than gave us a chance to step from the shadows into the forefront and say, hey, once again, you can shine your light and shine it to its max capacity without fearing threatening somebody else by shining your light. As somebody who's a background dancer, as me who's a publicist, we've been 20 feet from stardom. But again, a lot of times to make sure that we can sustain our time there and that we don't, get pushed out, we come in playing small. We come in with our heads down. We come in making sure that we're not doing too much or, opposing a threat. And it's just like Be Greater Than was us giving ourselves and our like the people who align with us permission to show up as your full self, to
Mhm.
know that self-love is self-care, and to know that you can pour into yourself just like you pour into everything you pour out into. And that you actually show up better when you pour into yourself.
Mhm. Love that. Love that. So
Yeah.
let's transition a little bit because you are this publicist expert and visionary. And so I would love to just ask you a little bit of questions around how creatives can put themselves out there a little more, their projects, their brands. So for you, when it comes to PR, what would you say are your top three tips for creatives to actually secure earned media? And feel free to explain what earned media
Yeah,
is for those that don't know.
for sure. Earned media is media that you are able to procure organically, not
Mm-hmm.
a paid advertisement, not something you pay to get coverage for. Is I put out the story in some way, whether it's through a media alert, a press release, or hey, I just put together some messaging and to communicate what it is that I'm selling. And someone bought into the story and they decided to cover it because of that. They bought into whatever it is that I was selling and it resonated with them. And so it's earned opposed to bought me. It was like, you could pay for advertising, but it's like, well, of course they're going to do it because it's paid. So you pay for that slot. It ain't necessarily they agree with it or they're aligned with it. It's just you have the money to secure that spot. So that's going to take precedence because money obviously helps make the world go around. So, you can do that. So when it comes to earned media, I would say three of the most important things is to one, know your why, know the why so that you can know how to craft your story. Because without the story, you don't have anything to push. So know your why so that you can craft your story. Number two, be consistent. Consistency breeds longevity. So if you can be consistent, you'll be amazed at the results that you're able to get directly and indirectly, because of the fact that people have no choice but to see your consistent content. And then the third thing I'll say is be undeniable. You have to be so good and so solid that it's just like they can't deny it. Make it hard for them to deny it. They're already trying to anyway, not because they hate you, but because they are oversaturated. They're getting millions of pictures every day. So in order to make people care about you, you have to do something that's undeniable, that's different, that's unique, that's authentic, that's real. People can spot the fake, from the real. And a lot of times these days with more ease, we see what's happening in Hollywood right now. A lot of things that have been hidden in the dark for so long are being exposed and coming down. So it's just like what's done in the dark always comes out to the light. So it's better to just be genuinely real, genuinely lit in all the best ways so that when, again, whatever comes to light about you surfaces, because it will, is something that's going to be an asset to you and not a liability.
Yeah. So the one that stood out to me the most was obviously to be consistent. And I guess for me, like, what does consistency look like? So if I'm a filmmaker, I might only have one short film, or I might only have one script that we haven't shot yet. Like, how can I consistently put my work out there if I don't have a lot of work? You know what I'm saying?
So or be consistent with. Go ahead. What are you going to say?
Or I was saying, or should it be more like I need to consistently build a portfolio before I can even think about like pitching myself and putting myself out there?
I say consistency looks different in so many ways. So it is this and that. It's consistently building your portfolio, but it's also consistently pushing whatever you have. And even if it's just one thing, push it. And make sure it's so undeniable that when you push it, it creates room for more. It makes people want to say, you know what, this is so good. We need more of that. So how can I support? Okay, I probably can't support, but I know somebody who can. When you're undeniable, people are going to find a way to latch on and to be a part of what you're doing because it's undeniable. So if you do your part and making sure something is quality, it's undeniable, your consistency shows because of the quality of the thing that you're producing, then you're going to be able to draw the support you need to help add to it. And whether that's monetary, whether that's just word of mouth and promotions, whether that's, again, putting you in position, some way, somehow, quality breeds not just longevity, but quality breeds like connection. When something is quality, you feel connected to it and you want to attach yourself, whether it's, I want to purchase a copy of it so I can have it, or I want to spread the word so I'm going to post about it and share it so somebody else can experience it too, or I want to experience it again. Whatever the case is, that quality breeds connection. And so when you are connected to a thing, you feel more inclined to naturally spread the word and ensure its success, And so, when you can be consistent, it shows. And so if you can consistently push what you have, a lot of times in the day of social media, we feel like, okay, I posted it once, that's it. And they feel like, I don't want to bug nobody.
Yeah.
How many times do you see a commercial? It's the same commercial when you're watching a TV show.
About 7
you miss it
times. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's because they don't mind bugging us. They understand that there's a science to it. It takes a certain amount of time for you to hear something for it to click, even something like a name, but we don't know that. So we think it's all just coincidental and not realizing like, no, these machines have been in place for a reason, for this long for a reason. So
Yeah.
there's a science. They know how many commercial time the commercial needs to be heard. They know how many billboards need to be up. They know exactly where it needs to be. They know which audiences are in which locations to who are going to respond to that billboard or to that ad or that commercial, you know? And so a lot of times we again think we're doing too much because we announced it and we don't want to DM everybody because we want to bug them. We don't want to seem thirsty. Well, if you ain't thirsty, then why would I all right, I hate that I couldn't say that fluently, but like if you're thirsty, then like how do I settle your quench
Mm-hmm.
if I don't know? The squeaky wheel gets the oil, right?
Yeah.
I know the oil needs to I know that wheel needs to be changed because it's squeaking. It's making noise. It's not sitting here like, oh, well, they're gonna eventually know. They're gonna find out for themselves. They're gonna find out one day. Wait till they crash and burn. They're gonna realize they should have changed me. Like, no. That's why the wheel is designed to make noise as an alarm, as an alert to let you know, hey, it's time to change. You know?
It's
We
time
don't do that enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
I
so we
love
wonder why we don't have the attention. We haven't let anybody know we're here. We have not enough. We love to move in silence like Beyonce. When it's just
right.
like
And everybody's
Beyonce
not
made noise for
Beyonce.
years. Mm-hmm. Chance the Rapper. We're like, oh, but he dropped the album with no label. He didn't have a traditional label, but he had a manager whose dad was a billionaire. So he still had funding. What do
Mm-hmm.
you have? What are you pushing? And I hate to sound irritated by it, but I'd be so irritated by people having quality stuff that they don't know how to promote. And it's sad because honestly, to be fair, we don't always have the resources required to promote, which
Mm-hmm.
is unfortunate. So we don't realize the value of it. So a lot of times all quality goes unnoticed because we just don't have the resources and the education required to maximize the exposure, not because the content isn't quality.
So now that we're talking about resources a little bit, what would you say are some like strategic and smart ways for creatives to, gain earned media if they don't have the means to pay for a publicist full time?
Nowadays, you can do your research in the same way I do research as a publicist. Like you have that available to you now. It's always been available. Now, granted, as a publicist, there are resources that we pay for, subscriptions and things that may give us the contact names and emails and stuff to people. But the research is the same. You pick up the magazines and you read it. You pick up the trades, you read it. You go online and you follow the people who are doing what you do, who you align with. So that way, those same people that cover them, it's like, oh, well, that would be fitting for me too when it's my turn. Take note of the outlets, take note of their names. If you could find even just the format of the email addresses for those places, then you could say, okay, oh, well, it's usually first name dot last name or first initial last name at the outlet's name, whatever the case may be. Do your research, find out who those people are, find strategic, organic ways to connect with them. So if that's getting to a networking event that they may be at, or if it's an event that they're moderating, if it's just sliding their DMs and trying to respectfully find a way to align and say, hey, I'm working on something and I've seen your work on this person. I've seen, show that you've done your research so that they'll know. But they feel respected too, because one thing to know is that as a journalist, as media, they too are artists. They're just creating different, they're doing storytelling in a different capacity. So they're passionate as well. So reach out to them and say, hey, I noticed the work that you did on such and such. That goes back to, remember Brown Sugar when the Boris Kojo character didn't read her article and she realized, and that's what tonight like this character, that's what hurt her. She's like, oh, you don't read my work. And it's just like, she's a writer. That means something to her. So if you can show a journalist, hey, I read your work, I love it, and I feel like I would be a great subject for you. I know the traditional protocol is I should have a publicist, but because I'm new and I'm still, figuring this out, I don't have the resources now. However, I just wanted to reintroduce myself. And if it's okay, I would love to send you some more information about myself. If that's okay, can I get your email or something?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be amazed that people one, honored that you took the time to credit them for their work, that you're familiar with them. And that's going to make them feel like, wow, you personally sought after me. Not just my editor assigned me something, but no, you yourself did your homework, found out who I was. You realized that I was on target with you, like that you aligned with my beat. And so now you're giving me something to share. That's one story I don't have to go looking for now. Like it's something that I get to bring to the table and say, hey, I have access to this, and let it be something new. I get to be the person that break this story and introduce that person. Like, There are so many people that I think about through my career where I was one of the first to tell their story. Ashley Everett being one of them, Dondra Nicole, who was signed to Jermaine Dupri's So Def from YouTube. People like them, I love to expose them to expose since I was young. And to do my research to find out how to reach those people came from my natural curiosity. So if you can't hire a publicist right now, be curious, go read the places that the clients who match your style, what you would try to do are. Find out who those journalists are, note take them, get in touch with them, and start building relationships with them. And I say build a relationship because if you have a relationship, that's what's going to make them want to feature you more than just, oh, I have this cool thing. It has to be mutually beneficial. And a lot of times we don't think about that enough. We only think about like how to get what we need. But if we can come in like a good relationship and think about how to make sure my partner has what they need too, then that journalist and that outlet is more inclined to feature me and cover me because they realize that I'm also mindful of their needs and not just selfishly thinking about mine.
Yeah, that was so good. Thank you. So once this creative actually gets their work put in a publication, how can they keep the traction going? Like, how do they maximize on keeping the momentum going?
Consistency again. So now you have to be your own like marketer. You have to be your walking billboard. You need to have like, whether that's merch that has your product on it and it talks about it. You need to have your elevator pitch together and be ready to give people a short snapshot of what it is. And if they're curious enough or they're intrigued enough or your elevator pitch landed with somebody who resonates with it, then they'll invite them to give you your passion pitch or whatever. So now you can go into a little more depth and really hook them. And then what's the call to action? Okay, I'm telling you about this. What do I want? Are you a journalist that I want to help write a story about it to bring more exposure to me? Are you a financier or a sponsor or an angel investor who's going to invest to help me create more? Are you just a friend who's going to use word of mouth to go now tell other people who may benefit from knowing about it? What's the call to action? And being prepared with that. A lot of times we don't come in with our auto responses enough because we don't practice them, So it's just like, oh, I got tongue tied. But if I could practice how to reject somebody when they inquire about my services and find my way to do it respectfully, I don't get so tongue tied or feel the pressure of, darn, someone wants me. I don't want to work with them, but I want to let them down because I'm a people pleaser. It's like, no. Practice in advance and have the language. Unfortunately, I don't have the capacity for that right now. Unfortunately, I don't know if this aligns with me right now, but I'm happy to recommend you to somebody else. Or that could just be the end. You may not need to you don't want to put your name on it. You just say, hey, unfortunately, I'm not the one, but I thank you for thinking of me. If you can practice those things so that it's second nature for you, that's part of you then being undeniable. And so that you're ready for whatever comes your way. And so, yeah, I think that's what I would say. Being consistent, making sure you're, building those relationships and making sure you're just not afraid to be your own bullhorn. You have to talk about what you're doing if you want people to know about it. Silence will get you nowhere. Like waiting for people to just come to you won't do it if you're not doing something that sends up a smoke signal that there's something to be seen. I always say as a publicist, my job is to have fan the flames, but you have to ignite the fire. And if you don't ignite the fire, there ain't gonna be no smoke. And if ain't no smoke, ain't nobody running over to see it.
Yes, that's so true. Like you really do have to be like a little bit like, is the right word merciless? Like you have to
merciless, yeah.
Yes, like you really have to like go after your family and friends because I know some people will feel some type of way because they're like, dang, my family's not supporting me. But sometimes people just don't know. Like they're not on Instagram or social media like you think they are. And it's like you really have to nudge and push people sometimes, like, or even ask them like, hey, can you post this? And I think I've gone through this myself where it's like, I don't want to keep asking somebody to do this or keep following up with them and getting annoying.
Yeah.
But it's like, you really do have to like push yourself and push your own brand if you want it to succeed.
Most times I've sealed the deal from the follow-up rather than the initial outreach. Not because that person wasn't interested. They may have been distracted at that time. They may have put it on their radar and said, I'm going to get back to this. But again, life happens. And because I understand it's not personal, it's preference, they just may not have gotten to it. If I allow it to be personal, I feel rejected by them not getting back to me. But if I realize like, oh no, they just may be busy and life may be happening, So then I do a follow up. They're like, oh my God, I actually meant to reach out to you. Oh, I put a bookmark in here and I never picked it back up. Thank you for reaching back out. So you have to be consistent. Until somebody tells you no, there's still a chance. Now, if someone just flat out ignoring you and they never respond, and but even then, until you give me a no and you tell me to take me, if let's just say take me off your list, I'm gonna keep pitching because one day I may have the thing that fits. And again, just because it didn't fit before, don't mean it was personal or that that it's a no forever. It just may not have been that timing. I talk about how I worked with this couple who were like the most dynamic singers I know. They're a married couple that sing background for people like Alicia Keys, Common, John Legend, some of everybody. And there was this one day that they were in town because they were on town. Oh, no, they were actually doing their own show. So I was trying to get them on our local news. And I got them on one of the news outlets, but like a bigger outlet that I wanted to get them on, they were already booked. Now, the person who was doing it was like literally like the bouncer from our local club. And he was an artist too on the side. And he was doing it. And I'm just like, my clients are way more established. Like they're world renowned and stuff. They've been on America's Got Talent and all these other things. That didn't matter. At that week, in that moment, that day in particular, they were focusing on one of like the local gyms, that people can access. And also when there's news, right? You want something that's local. These other ones were on a world tour. They wouldn't have caught them outside of that day. So having them on the other day really wouldn't have mattered. And so when you understand that, you're like, oh, the rejection ain't always personal. It just don't align. So when I know it's not personal, I don't mind doing my job, which is to follow up and do like my due diligence. So I think when people can think about it from that place, which is hard to do when you're an artist, what they say, you're sensitive about your ish. So you may feel like, okay, they telling my baby no. When it's just like, yeah, I'm telling your baby no, but two things could be true. I'm just saying no right now. It don't mean no tomorrow or no forever. I don't like, I may like you and want you. I may even want you on more than I want this, but I already have an agreement in place and you won't want me to cancel my agreement with you. So let me honor this agreement. And then if we can find an alternative time that aligns, then we can make it work still, So don't give up on your first no or your first, or the lack of a response, I'll say. Like be consistent, follow through, follow up. And you'll be amazed at the results you're able to procure just because you stayed consistent, you stayed in the fight.
Love it. Okay, so that was all great. Thank you for your expertise. So my next segment, I always do biggest boss move. So I would love to know, for you, what do you consider to be one of your biggest boss moves so far in your career?
I think just advocating, period, for my clients is one of the biggest things, and then learn to advocate for myself. As a publicist, you're kind of like an intercessor. Like you're the person who you're the filter for the client. So all the gunk and junk has to go through you. So you're the one who hears that your client isn't this enough, isn't that enough, or it's too this and too that. Not the client. And then you have to find a way to translate and communicate that to them. And in a way that makes them still feel like you advocated for them. Because it's just like if you hear one of your friends talking about you and tell you, yeah, girl, I want to talk to such and such, and this is what they have to say about you. And a lot of times our response is, so what did you say in return? I'm the friend that has to go and tell the friend what the public thinks about them. And then they want to know, what did I say in return?
Yeah.
What did I do in return? So I need to make sure then, if I'm going to have to be an advocate for my client, I could be a confident advocate who aligns with them, who can confidently co-sign with them, and know that my integrity isn't at risk by doing so. So learning to stand up for my clients and push that yes when it's a no, when I know it should be a deserving yes, and finding alternative routes to get to the destination. Being able to stand in the gaps for my clients, for example, when there's a woman on set and she has natural curly hair and they say, we want to press it out. And that woman's uncomfortable advocating for herself because she don't want to be seen as difficult. I have to be able to read the room and say, but you just got your hair curled yesterday for this. So for you to pay to get your hair curled and they want to press it out, can they challenge themselves to then be more creative and figure out how to do hair that looks like yours in a mainstream outlet? And we go with that route instead of you having to throw away your whole hairdo because they don't have the capacity to service you.
Yeah.
So me being an advocate there, be an advocate for myself, because as a publicist, the work isn't always tangible, right? The placement is the tangible result, but there's so much more work because the pitching, the story to pitch, the follow-ups, there's so much more work. And it's just like that roller coaster ride that you stand in line for an hour, but then the ride is only 30 seconds. Like that article, the impact and the feel of it lasts nowhere near as long as the investment required to secure it. And so when you understand that, you kind of come in with a different mentality, understanding that, hey, like the result is great. It's the cherry on top. But even without that cherry on top, I'm still satisfied with what I have.
Yeah.
Everybody isn't, but if you can get to a place where you can say, well, whether I got 30 placements, 2 placements, or none, I did my job and I'm worth this amount. I can't control if the person picks it up or not. It's not my job to force them to. All I can do is craft the message and put it out there. And I cast my net and I hope that people will swim on in so that way when I pick my net back up, I'm picking up with more than I came with. But again, I can't guarantee that. However, this is still my value for what I do. Because I don't just get paid for the results. I get paid for even showing up to put you in a position to secure results. I get paid for collecting the results. I get paid for even knowing who to go to get results. So having to be confident in that and to enforce my rates and raise my rates, despite having nobody overhead to tell me, hey, it's time for you to raise your rates. I'll say, even to close that out, one of the biggest boss moves I had to make was choosing to stay independent and keep my company when bigger companies came in trying to buy me out, wanted me to work exclusively for them. And it's just like, with my gifts and my talent, I don't need to be boxed in. But it's just like, you're so gifted that we want to make sure that you're exclusive to us and no one else has the chance to take advantage of your gifts.
Yeah.
I don't prefer that. So if you want to contract me as a contractor, I'll be a consultant. And it was the biggest contract I've ever negotiated in my life. I'll be a consultant, actually, but I'm still going to have like ownership over what's mine so that I'm not at your mercy. Had I done that, I would have been completely without, because that contract eventually ended, even though I was told it wouldn't. Anything that you don't own, there's no guarantee. Yeah. So that was a major boss move for me. Me being able to say, hey, despite the fact that you're throwing a huge amount of money at me and it sounds good, I'm confident enough to know that where I'm going is better than where I've been. And so eventually came like shortly after that, I make more on my own than I would have made working for you. So I make more working for myself and you, but I dare not cut my own roots and only now be a resource available for you.
Yeah. No, that is the biggest boss move right there. Like knowing your value and then not being afraid of owning your talents and your skills, So,
and to piggyback off of that, knowing your value isn't just monetary. Knowing your value is knowing what your energy brings to the room, what your talents bring to the room, and knowing, hey, this is what it is because of the contributions I make. And so if you can acknowledge that and own that, great. I'm happy to keep contributing here. But if not, I don't care if even the money's right. If I realize that I'm not being properly valued, I'm okay with taking myself somewhere else because I realize I can get the money because I know what I bring to the table. And that's one of the biggest changes. Again, we talk about the change you saw 5 years ago or so. It was me starting to realize like, oh no, I can get the money. Like, oh no, there's greatness inside of me. Like, oh no, people actually, they're not just coming to me because of the plugs they think I'm connected to. They see that I'm the generator. So they want me to be a source of power and connectivity for them too. So now that I see that, again, I can move with a different confidence, knowing that I don't have to rely on the abuser or the misuser to make it. I have the ability to do it on my own. So now I don't have to subscribe to your toxicity. I know that I can come out of this environment with nothing, knowing that I'll be okay and that tomorrow I'll walk into something that's better, that's paying more, that treats me kinder, because I chose myself. A lot of times we settle for toxic situations because we think we can't do better. We've been told long suffering is a thing. Long suffering is a thing because we've allowed it to be.
Yeah.
We have accepted and embraced it because that's what we were told. But I promise you, the moment you start to realize that having a backbone actually earns you respect, that standing your ground actually allows you to keep the ground you're standing on and not be pushed over, then you too will make fun of like starting to be a little more direct and be a little more responsible with how you allow others to treat you, you know? And when you do that, it shifts how you show up in the room. It shifts the glow that people see on you on the
Mhm.
outside because of the inner work being done on the inside. That's bringing you the peace that is like literally evident and apparent on the outside. You know?
Yes. Okay. So, our final segment, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And you can just give me your first response or thought to it. So the questions are: what do you regret? What do you hope for? And what do you want to manifest and receive? So for you, what do you regret?
I regret not showing up as my authentic full self sooner. I
Hmm.
wish I had listened to my mom and media people growing up and friends who I didn't even realize were friends at the time who spoke to the greatness within me and affirmed that I was called to do bigger things, a call that told me that I was meant to be in bigger rooms, that I deserved to be around greater people and just saw the gifts in me way before I did. You know, so I would say a regret is not realizing, you know, like my greatness and my power sooner. But I also still don't regret it completely because I know everything happens in the time it is supposed to. So I'm grateful to have seen it now. But you know, yeah, if I did have to say I had a regret, it would have been that not embracing it sooner.
And what do you hope for?
Oh, I hope to continue to be a storyteller that creates platforms for others, that empowers others through my achievements, that is able to uh, do what I love, and that's create, that's unite people, and that's promote things that I believe in. I hope that I can do those things with excellence and for the rest of my life, and to make great money doing so. I want to be able to make multiple like I want to have multiple streams of income off of
Mhm.
my gifts and my ideas, not off of hard labor that has nothing to do with my purpose. That is
Yeah.
just busy work.
And what do you want to manifest and receive? I feel like the hope kind of went into that, but what do you want to manifest and receive?
I want to manifest and receive consistency and discipline so that I can continue to be in a place where I know with certainty that I am good, that I have everything I need. Uh, I want to manifest love and the natural, like not just the agape love we hear about and things like that, but I want love in the natural. I want a person to come home to enjoy the life that I've built with. I'm grateful for the rooms I've been able to walk into and the people I've been able to do life with. But there's nothing like having your own person that is like that person for you that's meant to love you despite your success and your achievements, but that just love you organically for who you are. And so I look forward to that. I look forward to being able to thrive off of my gifts and my ideas and the concepts that I've come up with that I've created from start and from scratch. Um, and I look forward to being like financially free in every area of my life. And I am almost there. I don't know if I want to share this on a record or not, but I'll just say I've seen. What I'll say is this: in my life, I've always been an extremist. I've seen the extreme highs and extreme lows, and that also takes place in my bank account sometimes, where it's just like I feel like the moment that my bank account depletes is the moment that the next day it always like overfills, like it overflows. Is the word I'm trying to say. It overflows, and I'm always amazed by it. I'm like, okay, so God, are you teaching me to let go of what I have so I can make room for what's next? Because honestly speaking, I am that person that be like, okay, well, I know I have the money for the bill, but what if life happens and something else come up? So I want to hold on to this money just in case. So I won't pay the bill, but now I'm paying interest and a late fee instead of having just paid the bill with the money that I had. And that's fear. And so I had to realize that. And so coming out of that and walking into wisdom, I'm in a place where it's just like, no, you can make it without robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
Like you can make it and be ahead of the game and have your bills paid up in advance and stuff like that if you genuinely trust and manifest, and believe that it will work out. And I can't explain how much of a difference it's been since I just started believing that no, this person will be on time. The money will come. It's so easy to get caught up in like, oh, they're gonna probably be late again. People are always late
Yeah.
and never on time. And so when you start to think that, that's what happens. And I started to rehearse different things and be like, nope, it's going to be here. I'm not sitting here waiting on it. I'm not at the bus stop looking like, okay, is the bus coming? Like it says it's going to be here at this time. So I trust that it's going to be here when it needs to be. And if it's delayed, it's okay. I'm still going to have what I need regardless. So another check will come, or another way going to come, And so just within this past week alone, I was able to pay off all of my credit card debt. I went from literally just having not enough last week to like now having more than enough to pay off my credit card debt, to pay off my car note for a couple of months, to pay rent in advance for a few months out of nowhere, So I want more of that to be financially free, because that peace of mind you have, the resources you have to then create and pour into the things you want to do, to then thrive and not just survive, that becomes real, So that's my hope, is to be able to really embody what it means to practice wellness, and that's to thrive and not survive.
Yeah, that's powerful, because the mindset shift is what changes everything. It changes your reality. And I was watching like this TikTok video the other day, and she was talking about gratitude and how, like for me, I'm always like, thank you God, for random things. But she was like, instead of just saying thank you God, you should say, thank you more, please. And I was like, oh, like I actually like that. Like, this feels good. So like, please give me more of it.
Yeah, genuinely, and I'm a witness of that, of seeing that. I haven't said those exact words, but I have made that request. Saying like, okay, God, I received that. Thank you. All right. So now what's next? I talked about literally the day after I woke up from my college graduation, the very next day, it's like my eyes will open up and say, okay, what next? That was literally the first thing I asked myself, is what next? So that's always my question on the other side of success. It's like, all right, so what's next? Opposed to getting stuck and like, okay, I made it, I arrived. I never feel like I arrived. It's just like, I don't even take the time to enjoy a lot of times the arrival. Like, don't get me wrong, not in a way of like, I don't celebrate it and embrace it. But it's like, it's so short lived. It's like that 30-second roller coaster ride. And we often think that when I make it to that, it's just like, if we are honest, it's like, okay, yeah, I get that thing. It felt good in the moment, but then I was ready for the next thing, And because we're naturally progressive as humans, it's okay for that. And so I'm okay embracing the fact that I want more, that I'm hungry for more. And that's what's going to keep me alive and pushing for that next thing.
Well, thank you, Randy. I could ask you more questions, but I'm going to end it here. Thank you so much. So for anyone that wants to know more about Randy, you can definitely follow him on his socials at Randy C. Bonds. And all of his information will also be in the show descriptions. So please follow him. And thank you again for joining me.
Thank you for having me.